Hi, my name is Cynthia, and I'm 16 years old. Let's be real, we all have secrets. Some of you have probably hidden bad grades or getting in trouble at parties from your parents. But imagine your mother suddenly getting a job at your school and knowing all of your secrets. What a nightmare. I would know, as that's what happened to me. Subscribe to my channel and I will tell you the story of fighting for my privacy. At first, everything was going fine. My mother and I had lived in a small apartment and I had my own room. Mom changed jobs every year because she'd only completed compulsory education, and big companies refused to hire her. But we had enough money to get by and were quite content. Naturally, I had some secrets. Nothing big, but I didn't tell my mom everything about my life. Well, for example, I didn't tell her about getting bad grades in geography or hanging out with my friends in the evenings instead of sitting in the library like she thought I was. I did let it slip one day that I was dating Bruce, who was a year older than me. He didn't care much about his studies, liked to listen to rap, and skipped school a lot. But he loved me, and we were serious. After my mom found out about him, she immediately began to scold me, saying that I was too young to fall in love and should focus on studying. Oh, I regretted telling her about Bruce 1,000 times over. I swore to myself that I would never share my secrets with Mom ever again. We were friends, but sometimes she was simply insufferable. And then something unexpected happened. We were told during a PE class that from that day on we would be getting a new teacher. The whole class got interested in what they would be like. Suddenly, the gym door opened and my mom came in. She was wearing a tracksuit and carrying a whistle. Was it some sort of joke? I couldn't believe my eyes. My mom stood in front of my class and introduced herself. Yes, she was really going to work at my school. But why? I couldn't understand anything. I went up to my mom after class and asked her what it all meant. She told me cheerfully that she'd simply decided to work a bit closer to me so that we could spend more time together. I didn't like her answer. She was definitely hiding something. That was the day when my carefree school life came to an abrupt end. From then on, it became impossible to hide anything from my mother. One day, my friends invited me to a party. I was going to gladly agree because I could really use a break at the time, so I ran to my mom to get her permission. But she got angry instead. "What party? You have bad grades in science and literature. Go study," she said. Damn! How had she found out about those? But of course, she'd become friends with all of my teachers and they were keeping her informed about my studies. I couldn't hide anything from her anymore. So I had to stay at home instead of going to the party. I sat in my room, chatted with my boyfriend on the phone, and complained about my lost freedom. Why had my mother had to get a job at my school? He comforted me and suggested I run away from home with him. I really wanted to, but I was afraid of upsetting Mom. The next day, I met Bruce outside the school so that Mom wouldn't see us. We were chatting, when all of a sudden I saw Mom come around the corner. She ran up to us and pulled me away from Bruce by the arm. "What are you doing here, Cynthia? Aren't you supposed to be in class now?" she asked angrily. Startled, I didn't know what to say. I really hadn't expected Mom to catch us there. Then she turned to Bruce and said viciously, "As for you, Bruce, don't you dare come near my daughter again. Do you understand me?" Without waiting for a reply, she dragged me to school. As we walked, she kept scolding me and telling me I wasn't allowed to hang out with such irresponsible guys. I was shocked. Did my mother have eyes all over the school? She knew about every step I took. I couldn't stand it. That same day, I also found out she had befriended some of my friends and acquaintances. She gave them good grades, and in return, they told her the latest gossip about everything going on at school. Of course, they also told her about me, who I was friends with, how I spent my time, where Bruce and I went for dates. She had spies everywhere. I got so angry that I decided not to talk to her. Why had she suddenly decided to watch me so closely? After all, that's why she'd got a job at my school in the first place. That much was clear. As well as the fact that I could no longer have a private life or any secrets. It was a nightmare. I decided that I had to do something. I had to make my mom leave my school. And so it began. I would turn off the alarm on her phone so she'd oversleep and be late for school. I was sure she would get fired after coming in late several times, but even when the alarm didn't go off, she still managed to always come on time. Then I started putting pins in the washing machine while my mom was washing her tracksuit. The ink would leak out and ruin it, but she always found time to stop by a store and buy a new one. Her tenacity amazed me. It was time for desperate measures. I asked Bruce to catch a skunk and let it loose in the gym during a PE class. According to my plan, it would disrupt the lesson and my mom would be reprimanded by the principal. But once again, it didn't work. Mom wasn't afraid of the animal at all and simply decided to give a biology lesson instead of teaching the gym class that day. All of my attempts to get Mom fired failed. She wasn't going anywhere. She'd made friends with other teachers. The children loved her, and the principal respected her. Everyone wanted her to stay, except for me. She watched my every move and had almost made me break up with Bruce. I thought I would have to spend the rest of my school life like that, when one day, I finally got my chance to end the torture. That day, I asked to go to the restroom during class. As I was walking down the hallway, I happened to look into the gym. My mom was there, and she wasn't alone. She was being hugged by my English teacher, Mr. Bergman. What were they doing? I watched them through the half-open door. They seemed to be having a nice chat, but it didn't look like they were just friends. There was clearly something going on between them, even though Mr. Bergman was married and had children. I realized that it would help me in my battle for privacy. After school, Mom said she would be working late and told me to go home alone. Working? Right. Like I believed that. So I pretended to go home, hid behind the school, and decided to watch my mom. A few minutes later, my English teacher came out of the school and they headed somewhere. I followed them. They walked further away from the school and started holding hands. So sneaky. They obviously didn't want anyone to see them together. I followed them for 3 blocks until they walked into a cafe and sat down at a table. I watched them from across the street. They were chatting. It looked sweet. Then Mr. Bergman kissed my mom. I'd known it. They were dating. I knew the school wouldn't be too happy about it and realized what I had to do. The next day, I asked Bruce to watch my mom the whole day and film her as soon as he saw her with our English teacher. My boyfriend gladly agreed. He didn't want to spend the day studying anyway. As for me, I went to class. Bruce didn't let my mother out of his sight the whole day. He finally got lucky during the 3rd class. Mr. Bergman came into the gym and hugged my mom. Bruce immediately took out his phone and filmed their secret date. Well, have you realized what happened next yet? Of course, the principal saw the video, and my mother was called to his office for a serious talk. Our English teacher was there as well. They were reprimanded for their behavior that undermined the school's reputation right in front of the students. Mr. Bergman was fined, and Mom got fired. As she was leaving, my English teacher told her that things were over between them. I won! No one would pry into my personal life anymore. I could do whatever I wanted at school once again. After classes, I came home in a good mood. My mother was watching TV in silence and looked very upset. It made me feel sorry for her, but she was the one who started it all. I decided to talk to her. It wasn't easy, but she finally admitted that she loved Mr. Bergman and said Bruce and I had ruined their relationship. That made me angry, and I told her how she'd almost ruined my relationship with my boyfriend as well, even though I loved him too. However, my mom suddenly looked at me very seriously and said, "Cynthia, don't you realize you're making a mistake? The same mistake I did." I didn't understand what she was talking about, and that's when my mom told me why she'd got the job at my school in the first place. After she'd found out I was dating Bruce, who wasn't serious about school, she decided to step in before I got hurt. She said that I was doing the same thing she'd done when she was at school. It turned out that she'd also once dated a guy like Bruce. She thought they were in love. When she was the same age as I was now, she'd gotten pregnant and given birth to me. The guy had immediately dumped her because he hadn't wanted to be a father, and my mother had to raise me by herself. Because of that, she hadn't gone to college or got a good profession. But she loved me with her whole heart and swore that she would protect me from the mistakes she'd made in her youth. I'd never known my father, but that was the first time my mom told me that story. It got me thinking, why was my mom allowed to make mistakes because of love, but I wasn't? Why do parents even try to correct their own mistakes through their children? After all, if I only do what my mom wants me to, I'll stop being myself. Or am I wrong? Write in the comments down below. What do you think? After all, I really want to decide how to live my life by myself.